Okay. Take it away, Scott.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'll dox myself. I'm Scott Ridley. And we are here today. Everybody was reached out to. Some people aren't here, but everybody was reached out for their varying qualities and perspectives that they offer. And the group is the team. The whole team ensemble is basically we're here to try and remedy some of the issues that are currently going on with CAs and BCAs, CAs in general, as far as the onboarding, retainment, training, information dissemination, artificial barriers. And we'll cover that in a little bit. We have some slides to go over. And I think right now, apologize for any background noise you may hear. Right now, I guess we can open the floor up for people to introduce themselves. Whatever y'all would like to share. I'm guessing if you've been a CA, if not, how long you've been in Cardano. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just let us know about yourself. And I'll go first. So Scott, already called myself out. So I've been in Cardano since about June of last year. I am a CA, a VCA. I'm not a proposer. I have my hand in many projects within Cardano and outside of Cardano. And I'm here because I have my biggest issue is the dissemination of information. And as I mentioned, artificial barriers that come along with that, and also the fragmentation of the platforms that we have where information is gathered, shared, and communicated. And I'll pass it to Nadia.
Great. So I'm here in sort of in the same vein as Scott, we're really sensing that the community itself has been sensing that our sort of our sharing of information and our collaboration on solving some of the community's issues that we can address is often hindered by not having a really sort of refined and defined process that it would go through. The information and a way to help groups form to work on those things. So there's a lot of acknowledging and sensing of problems, but once we come to solve it, has it been solved? Has it been worked on? What's the historical information that's there? Who's been thinking about this before? What are the different perspectives? Trying to create a little bit of a hub for that so that the community can work together. And we're just noticing that as that doesn't exist, what the really effect is that people are having difficulty contributing and working together. So we're looking to solve that problem a little bit. And so Scott and I have been talking about it. We've had conversations with different people. And as he said, everyone on this call, we're intending that we have different perspectives, both on how to solve this and representations of different stages of people who have been of involvement with as a CA, but also within Catalyst. And that's it. So we're just hoping to start here and just be able to talk a little bit about how we might come to a solution, not totally from scratch. We have a little bit of an idea and we're hoping that we can form that together. So on my screen, Ilya's next to me, so maybe we can go that way.
Okay, great. I'm the representation of a new CA. That will be first time CA in this fund. I tried for the previous round, but I was too late for enrolling. And I really dislike disorganized things and not effective processes and systems. So I'm here to try to put some structure into the whole thing to help organize the whole process. And yeah, just learn, because I'm new, have to learn a lot.
I'll just go by my screen. So Dana, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm Dana. I participate in Catalyst. I am not a CA. I was just brought here as a third party outside observer to listen to the issues and help with some insight if I can. My background is in business. I've worked in corporate America at an executive level for over 14 years or what my past life. And now I just consult and stuff. So I guess I'm just here I've done a lot of stuff with conflict management, doing putting workshops on with that, and then also like structural tools that I have seen over my years. So I'm not an expert by any means, but if I can offer support, I will.
Great. Rodolfo.
Hello, so I joined Catalyst on Fund 6 as a proposal. I got a proposal, more technical proposal. My background is engineering. So working on the decentralized ID field. And when I submit the proposal, I start looking all the Catalyst processes and I love it. So this is an interesting experiment for me. So I joined as a CA, BCA, challenge team, last found, this found. I'm also showing in every maybe meeting that talks about improvements. And that's why I'm here. So I try to make the system works better if it's possible. So happy to be here with you.
Thanks. Vanessa.
Yeah, I'm Vanessa. I've been involved in Catalyst since maybe about, well, summer last year. I was a CA in round 6 and I didn't get to do any in 7 because I was too busy. I'm part of an organisation called QA DAO that documents and records circle meetings among many other documentation and archiving tasks. I'm an artist and also an archivist, and I've been sort of talking to Nadia a little bit about how the documentation from the emerging CA circle might feed into the documentation for Circle. So she invited me to just come and see if like what was said here can help us with that.
Jeremy.
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I got into Cardano last September, I think, looking for a wedding present for a niece of mine. And funny where things lead, right? Found Catalyst very soon after that. Very inspired by what happens here about this emergent self-governance idea. I am a CA and did CA work in Fund 7, looking forward to do it again in Fund 8. And I'm sort of leading this CA subcircle initiative within initiatives to sort of characterize the roles and processes and see if there's any structure that we can provide to support what really y'all are doing and what we're seeing kind of rise and fall within the community on a pretty regular basis of these emergent leaders, supporters of initiatives. These are people who seek to create positive change, facilitate just a healthier project catalyst, and getting them support seems to be a major ask for the community.
Great. All right, perfect. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to run through some slides, and if y'all could, if you have questions, just write them down or note the questions that you have. Get through the slides first, and then we will, anybody can ask questions. It'll be open floor and people can ask questions at that time. And yeah, apologies. Let me, okay. Nadia's got the link. So I'm going to share my screen, and it will unfortunately go large screen on y'all's end. So apologies on that. So y'all can see the screen? Yes? Cool, thank you. All right. Let me see. I apologize. It was not at the very beginning of this. All right. So this is as we've already discussed about CA communications initiatives, workflow. Goal for this is to consider y'all's perspectives, all perspectives across the broader community. No, it's really hard to do that, but we try to pick everybody based on their diverse backgrounds and their perspectives that they bring. And it's also to reduce the noise and the repetition that is common with after town halls and possibly Swarm, where we're always debating the same issue endlessly. And the process serves contributors at all levels, as already shared. And we're hoping to create a shareable and buildable model, repeatable, and sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I gotta keep moving everybody's faces around to get at this. So the current issue is the communications, obviously, and this, like as previously discussed, the solutions are spread across various platforms and varying people, methods of capturing that, and outlining the process. And obviously, it's like who takes ownership, who's the one that's in charge of solving that or producing that solution or driving the progress on that. And also it leads to duplicating the problem sensing and repetition. And the workflow model for the collaboration was this. Yeah. Yeah, apologies. Maybe I didn't. I think I already went over this one. So let's skip on to the next one. So this is this is how we, and by no means is this a permanent, this is just a kind of like Rails guidelines type thing. So if y'all have any suggestions at the close of the slides, y'all can bring those up. So beginning is the community observes an issue, and then an individual emerges and takes ownership. It's probably one of the more important parts of this. A group of people can form to tackle that issue, bring it to life. Upon that, the creation, whatever the solution is implemented, and then it's monitored. And then processes are documented and shared for a greater impact across the community. And here, these are the defining terms for the issue. So for defining terms for the process, excuse me, as a issue is the opportunity or observation that is raised that seeks community attention. Initiative is organized effort, change a prioritized problem for the better, and is owned by a champion and a subcircle with collaboration managed in GitHub. And the champion is the owner of an initiative who has taken responsibility of forming the subcircle, who's the one who identified the solutions and brought them to life. Subcircle is that diverse group that is formed for unified goal of taking on that initiative. Participation is voluntary and temporary, and resolution is a new and improved way of doing things that are agreed upon by the community and driven by the subcircle, which is both observable and measurable. And the archive is the initiative has been resolved. The initiative is closed. The issue has been resolved, and so it's moved to a chronicled location for further reference. Scenarios and details. And so here in the issue stage, you're raising an issue. Issues are raised in many places. Obviously, they don't aggregate. So that's after town hall channels, Telegram, pretty much anywhere that community members aggregate is that's currently where issues are raised and discussed. And so there's not much communication between the platforms and those groups of people. So the challenges was previously discussed. And so the future is that the community can be directed to an official hub to raise the issues with a clear explanation of the process and the tools to use it with the expectations that go along with that. So issue is submitted via a simple form, an easy form, hopefully. Trying to build a template for GitHub is one of the initial ideas, or directed to a CA hub tool. If the issue has already been sensed, then the CA community or a rep can connect the member to an existing initiative in the CA hub or its champion. And if the issue is new, determine the scope of the issue, whether it should become an initiative, whether the individual who has brought forward the issue will be the champion, or if a champion needs to be found. And not all issues, become initiatives, and some may be easily addressed while others may not. Role of the champion. When a community determines an initiative should be formed in response to an issue, champion emerges to take responsibility for guiding the initiative. The role is temporary. It is assumed for a strategic need and released once need is accomplished. And this should open that role up to varying degree of varying people, a diverse group of people through different experiences. And a team will naturally emerge and is formed to address the initiative. That team will become the subcircle. The initiative has a helpful guide and a checklist as a method for approach. Formation of the subcircle, and it aligns with the start of an initiative with the champion. Initiatives are posted in CA Hub tool, open to the community, collect and share the collaborative effort. A vision for a weekly recurring subcircle process is, if you refer to your slides, it is in there. I'm not going to apologize for the noise. I'm not going to open it up here. We can discuss it afterwards. Subcircle owns the responsibility of stewarding the initiative, including involving the community and the content experts, designing solutions with auditability, launching and measuring success, progress reporting, and archiving. Journey of an initiative through a CA Hub tool. The initiative can move through a workflow in GitHub that includes status-specific tagging, links to working Google Docs, unsync meetings, which will be held currently. The idea is to hold those in Discord, and we can discuss that if y'all have questions about unsync. And survey results, also comments, recordings, discussion notes, and any other related material. Multiple raised issues can be brought forward they can fall underneath an umbrella for a particular initiative. Regular updates on initiative progress are given at after town halls chronicled by the subcircle. Excuse me, sorry about that. Unsync is a hybrid non-synchronous meeting style that serves collaboration. As I said, we can discuss that further if y'all choose. So what's the resolution? Expectations for the resolution of initiatives are defined by the subcircle and agreed upon by the community. Resolution may include a captured consensus, a launch, a post-launch monitoring, and post-launch monitoring, among other components. Once the resolution is achieved and chronicled, initiative moves to the archive. Timeframe of a resolution is initiative specific. However, ideal initiative duration is up to 1 month. And how to archive. Definition of archive again is the initiative has been resolved and it's closed and it moves to an archives tag or section within the CA Hub tool. Archived initiatives can be reopened or added to in the future if necessary. All learning, failures, and success should be chronicled. Data preserved, new models, knowledge available for sharing. Archiving gives a historical record of the previous Catalyst CA activity.
And you're on
Sorry.
mute.
On
I
mute,
muted myself. Yeah, apologies. Some considerations for feedback. So these are some general questions that we have. How does this feel? What opportunities stand out or what challenges stand out? Does our language work? Such as issues and initiatives. Are there any other positive alternatives? Which tools would be most helpful? Which I think this is super important. They're all important questions, but I think it's a super important question. What roles do we need to support the process, i.e. facilitators, curators, CA Hub tool? What level of user training do we need to provide in order for the appropriate use of these tools? How might we determine that an issue should become an initiative? As previously stated, some issues might not even reach the level of becoming an initiative, and it might be something simple to resolve. How might we cover the terrain of channels to provide answers to users' questions and increase the inclusivity involvement? This goes again to the multiple platforms that are currently an issue. So, and what gaps and holes could we anticipate now? Sorry. And prevent in the future. I am horrible at this. Some considerations for feedback. What resources do we need to create the support to support this process? Champion checklist, a schedule for transparency, an issue submission form, proper tagging system for ease of navigation of the issues. The CA Hub tool content and details to educate new users, training on the CA Hub tool for CA users, and a long-term vision for incentivizing the process. And these are the source materials, the CA Hub tool choices, easy issue submission form, training for users on tools, guide for champions, relationship building for new CAs, schedule for a weekly rhythm, which would be the unsync. And what else? So I know that was a horrible presentation. I haven't done a presentation in about 17, 18 years. So that's it. I will pass it to Nadia in case she wants to add anything to it, and I will stop sharing. Actually, I'll leave my screen up, and then if y'all have questions on a particular slide, then I can go back to that slide.
I think we missed the tools slide with the GitHub and Discord server on there. We can click back to that because this is quite an evolved thing, and meaning like there's a lot of components to it, but hopefully it digests easily. And we also recognize that some of these things might be new and the tools might be new. So that we're hoping that this discussion just starts with what are your initial kind of deer in headlights kind of questions. I think it is, where is that? Yeah, right. This one right here. So we try to define things here. I know it's like new, perhaps some of these words might be new. We try to pick things that are aligned already with the Catalyst culture. So maybe we can start just broadly and hopefully, you know, there's no question too specific or too broad. So we're thinking we could just start to just get feedback on how it is to receive that as a process, because that's going to be something to think about for people who are new to come on. And for those of you who are very active in some of these tools, what is your perception? And yeah, just to sort of open the floor and see where the questions start and go. That's a good learning part of the process. This particular slide here explains Gitbook and GitHub. So one of the components of this process, which will fall under that champion subcircle, really the whole thing, everything after the issue is raised, is if something becomes an initiative of a working group, then the working group needs tools so that ideally, let's say tomorrow, someone gets on and asks a question about something that is being worked on by a group, that we could just say to that person, good news, that's being worked on. Here's where you can find the people who are collaborating on it and what's being done, rather than having a lot of discussion, which is fantastic, and the point of having community spaces, but also sometimes all of that information is lost. So Gitbook and GitHub, you have links in the actual slides there to look at what actually has been started and created. Gitbook is more of almost like a landing page space. We can give an overview of how to approach, whereas GitHub is more of the management tool of the initiatives themselves or projects, like yes, sorry. We'll give you the link again. And then for the Discord server, this could serve a similar purpose. And there's a lot of different perspectives on this. So this is going to be a key part of this discussion, is what tools do we actually use?
I have a very broad question.
Yes.
Are we looking for a temporary solution? If yes, for what period of time? Or we are looking for permanent solution to fix CA structure, communication, discussions, and so on for the future of the governance of the blockchain?
The solution is meant to be a permanent solution, as permanent as can be made, but to where it's also scalable and adaptable for a changing environment, if things happen to change. Did I answer your question, Ilya?
Yes, sure. Then this brings another question. Actually, a lot of other questions, but let's say, so the big thing is between decentralization and centralization, and how do we manage the change of the people that are responsible for those things, for those processes, for the whole. Like, for example, if we take what we already have in Catalyst and in the circle, each fund we have a change. We have voting for the members of the new circle. Are we doing the same thing for this community advisor subcircle committee, or how do we do that?
Yeah, I think the circle, maybe that's the whole point of, in my opinion, that's the whole point of building reusable tools, and to kind of get this, the organization, the tools, the adoption, and then possibly the other entities themselves could use these tools for their own uses. Aside from that, we are here mainly for the CA and VCA side, as far as adopting tools, kind of centralizing the information and the problem sensing for those specific roles. What the other entities, I'll just call them entities, such as the Circle and IOG, what they do is on them. But if we have a working platform, if we have something that we can show them that works, then it would just be the community would ask those other entities to look at these tools. Why aren't you using them? Or something of that nature. The community could petition the other entities to use these tools.
Even one question, even this entity, how are you gonna force or maybe make the CA, VCA decide this is the correct tool? What is the authority to come up with this idea? because anyone can keep doing whatever they want to do.
Well, yeah, of course. You can't force people to use it, just like you can't, I mean, you can't force people to believe a certain, a certain subject or a certain article. You can just, the only thing that you can honestly do is show them the information, show them where it's at, and show them how to use it. And then it's up to the individual whether or not they want to adopt and use that. I don't know. I guess I can defer. I guess I'll not defer, but Nadia, if you got anything you'd like to add to that.
I'm trying to prevent, maybe things that can arise later, because it's everything that we do. Maybe we need to reach consensus, at least like informal consensus of what is going to be done.
Yeah, I think this is being offered maybe as a response to a challenge that is being looked at within the community. So it's not a mandate. It's not this is how it must be done. It's more meant as a process offering. Certainly everyone doing a process might not be a great solution either. For some people, this might not work as well. But I think it does create the option for for groups to form around working on something together, and for there to be maybe a little bit of method and guidance for that to happen, so that the community can understand what's being thought of and designed, contribute to it as they would like. And so that we don't have permanent roles that may or may not serve a need, as the ecosystem is changing rapidly. And so for a issue to be able to be raised, a champion to take hold of it, a subcircle to form, to work on it for a short period of time. And these aren't like long initiatives. This isn't like 3 years of strategic planning. This is like, we need to update the handbook. We need to, talk about how we feel about the lottery, those kind of things, where maybe a conversation or an actual problem sensing issue has emerged, that it can be brought to a resolution, which also is a fluid thing, right? So that resolution might work for a period of time and then need to be addressed again. And so that there's an archive, so that, Fund 12, we're not thinking, I think we thought about that in Fund 7, but I don't know what we did and who worked on that again, and where's that information, so that there's a way for us to be able to, as a community, have a little bit of a record of what we did and who did it and what was done and how it worked.
Is that Rodolfo? Does that answer?
Oh, yes. Yeah. The process is, I think, it's natural. So I think all the people want to agree with the process, like having these sub-circles, or maybe this group of people working in an issue. Maybe the tools maybe more critic, but I like those tools, though, by the way. So I think the very first thing is to agree on this process and make everything champion the process, and then see what is the tool that is better fit for. Maybe each sub-circle can do another tool, or test a different tool, by the way, and see what is the best one. This is don't need to be only one tool. Maybe yes for having one landing page, but it can be many tools as well.
Yeah, I agree that the biggest thing is the platforms, like the landing page and the centralization of access to the information. But right now, believe it or not, Cardano requires 18 platforms to stay abreast of all the information that is coming out on Cardano. 18 platforms, which is ridiculous. Might be more than that. That's just 18 that I could count. Dana, yes, apologies. You've been waiting for a while.
No worries. I'm just hey, Quasar. I'm just observing, listening to the conversation, and I just had a comment about, I'm glad you said something. I didn't know that 18 different platforms. That's probably also very expensive, because it costs money to run platforms at a level that can hold the amount of things that are going to be on it and the amount of users that are going to be on it. Again, I am not a community advisor. I participated in Fund 7, and just my outsider's opinion, there was lots of research done on mice, right? When they put a bunch of mice in a box and they had no walls, it was a huge thing. And all the mice were scared. So they were in the middle of the box. They had no rules. There was nothing. And they were all afraid to move about the box. It was when there was certain, like different rooms put in that they started to explore and they started doing their thing. I think somebody put it in the comments too. I mean, it came to my head about the word decentralization. There needs to be structure. This cannot be a free for all. And we worrying about, well, what if they're not going to use it? I think that's the problem. There needs to be, in order to be a CA, you need to follow certain requirements in order to be a CA. You need to be participating on this platform. You need to follow the rules. There needs to be a structure of how the flow of solving problems goes through. There cannot be 5 million different ways how to do it, because that's going to be very confusing and nothing's ever going to get done. When a problem or an issue arises, it needs to be squashed. So whether it takes a month to squash it or a week to squash it, depending on the situation, it needs to be handled. If everyone's running around with their own ways of doing things and there's nothing streamlined, then you can't archive things in a streamlined way and all of that. That's just my opinion. I've never used Gitbook or GitHub before, and I was this is my second set of the comments. And I was like, oh, another thing to look at right here. But actually, just clicking on the link, I was very surprised that I didn't have to sign up for a new login and like it just took me to the thing. And I'm looking at what you guys have up here right now. Let's see, if I go to the Gitbook page, that's very clean. I like it, it's clean. It's very easy to navigate through. I think if you have things on there, it's pretty cool. The board is still hourglassing. I don't know if you guys just put it in there as like a placeholder just to showcase what it could look like. There's nothing in there right now. That's very interesting. Another tool that I've used in the past, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, is called Asana. And Asana is you can have different channels with different, and I mean, you break it down into like tasks with due dates and people attached to it. And then, all that stuff, it almost automatically archives. Like when a thing is done, then it archives and the team goes away. You know what I mean? So that's just another tool that I thought of when you guys were talking about this. So I've never worked with GitHub before, but I'm looking at it. It looks interesting. I haven't played around with it. But if it's similar to Asana, then I would say that it's pretty cool. Asana might be another avenue. This looks a little technical for me. I mean, just again, if CAs are not technical, but I do like the Gitbook interface. I like how this looks. That's my 2 cents for right now. Hope I didn't, and everyone, yeah.
No, you're good, Dana. Thank you for that insight. And yeah, there are a few tools that integrate with GitHub that are more user friendly. GitHub can actually produce a web page. You can have your GitHub look like a web page, and GitHub's. It just depends how technical you want to be as far as the UI that you experience in GitHub and the owners of that particular repository, how they have it set up. But and Nadia and I have talked about it. And our goal is to, the UI and UX is very important if you want to have user input and people to use the tools or to submit issues or trouble tickets. So yeah, that's something that we're focusing on. And Q, yes, sir. Apparently you don't have a raise a hand mode on yours. Go ahead.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you. So while Q's, and if you, can you share that, sorry, Dana, can you share the Asana, I think that's what you call Asana or Sana in the chat, please?
I'll just chime in on this. One of the reasons for GitHub as a choice here, it's not kind of like a random one, is that it's well used by within the Catalyst community. Other things are also well used, but this is one that is used with relative frequency. And to Vanessa's point in the chat, which I'll just say here, it's open source. So she says part of archiving effectively is being sure you can get data out again 50 years from now. Asana is not open source, so that's less assured. So yeah, I think it's not maybe in the scope of this conversation to choose the tool. Although I think it's very helpful to get people's insight on this, because just the arrival and the perception that it's technical. Dana, you're super used to different kind of tools, but for people who are not, or who are adding another one, there is a sense of like, how do we make this immediately feel accessible? And one of the things we thought is to have actually just like a simple form, which could be built within there as well, to let people just say, I was just thinking about this. I don't have time for all that. Thanks. Which also would provide us an opportunity to follow up with that person and really talk them through it. And if they wanted to get involved further, maybe it would be an opportunity to build their knowledge of tools that are useful. Because that's one of the things when you get to Catalyst, all of a sudden, even if you use a lot of tools, there's still like 27 more that you haven't used yet that you definitely need to use yesterday in order to understand what's going on.
And one more thing real quick is before Dana pops in, and that's there are, as I said before, there are a tremendous number of applications that can tie in with GitHub. And another one for issue tracking, assignment and such is ZenHub is another one. I don't know how many people are familiar with ZenHub. ZenHub has issue tracking, assignments, pretty much where it's at in the phases, and also completion, and that ties in with GitHub. And Dana, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, yeah, I didn't know the difference between the GitHub and the Asana. One's open source, one's not open source. It's very interesting. Like I said, I think as long as, like I said, I was surprised. I haven't messed around with the Gitbook and GitHub stuff, but with the Gitbook, so Gitbook provides a location of information and the GitHub serves as the niche. Yeah. So the Gitbook seemed very cool to me. I think with GitHub, it's just like a simple training or like a little video or something that somebody watches to learn how to do it, or somebody can sit with them. Like, as long as there's somebody teaching somebody how to use it, then that's fine, but for a simple, like, I don't want to deal with this, that's a Google form. You know what I mean? You can create a simple Google survey and it's one link and you put it in this Gitbook, and then all the answers go straight to a spreadsheet and they're all organized and they're all on top of each other. And then who's ever managing that backend can just quickly see all the things that were submitted for the day or for the week. So, yeah.
Yeah, and addressing the Google Docs, personally, that is not something that I enjoy, is Google Docs. I think it's overused within the Cardano community when there are other tools that are out there. Nothing against your suggestion on that, Dana. I think it's overused, and there's over reliance on Google Docs.
Any survey type of situation, you know what I mean? When I say a name of something, like, I'm agnostic. I don't care. You know what I mean? If it works and it's quick whatever you guys want to do. I'm just suggesting like there's platforms that you can go and write up a quick survey, and then it's just one link so that people don't have to mess around with finding out where they need to write it in and all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And also going back to your comment on, was it on the videos? That's another part of this, is to actually have very short videos that will actually walk people through how to use certain platforms, even be it Discord, if people need help setting up Discord notifications, because that seems to be an issue for some people when they use Discord. Apparently the notifications aren't set up properly, so that they kind of shy away from the platform because they get bombarded with notifications. So yeah, the training or tutorial videos are discussed, and so yeah, we'll tackle those as we start to put all this together and onboard people and get the processes set up to where these forms and such issues can be raised, and the hub can be interacted with in a proficient manner. Ilya.
Yes, I agree with Dana. One platform, I don't care which one. If it's only one, I can learn how to use it. But to learn 18 platforms how to use, that's not like, I'm trying to do it because I'm really enthusiastic about it. But a lot of people won't. So we will miss on a lot of talent just because the entry level is that high. So I put down several questions from the slides. If I may go through them really fast so we can see where we go. Okay, so first one, why do we use so many platforms for communication? Is that by design so that we are centralized, and if, for example, Discord or decides that they will cut us off, we can communicate through Telegram? So is that by design, or it's just a random thing that emerged because different people are used with different platforms, and one person started here and the other person started there, and ultimately we lose a lot of time circling around all those platforms and trying to keep what's going on? Do we know the answer of that question?
Yeah, I haven't been here long enough to really, I mean, I've been here 8 months roughly, but I don't know. I don't know why certain platforms were chosen. I think it's probably them being lightweight, easy to use, mobile platforms, issue to
They are
that.
the most common platform in the world, so people use the most common: Telegram, Discord,
Yeah.
WhatsApp. So that's where the people move.
And yeah, and again, on those, they're portable. Every one of those has a mobile app.
Yeah.
And they're not browser based, and they are fairly, except for maybe Discord, they are fairly lightweight apps as well.
Yes.
So
I understand. I understand that these are the most popular ones, and that's why we use those. But why do we have to use all of them?
You use whatever you want to use. You want to communicate with someone, use whatever you want to use. Yeah.
And that goes back to like, how much do you want to know? How involved do you want to be with Cardano? Yeah, so that's up to you. I don't have a silver bullet answer for that question.
Yeah, my point is, I want to be really involved, but I don't want to follow 10 different channels of communication. It's not efficient as a process.
Well, yeah, and that's what we are meeting together.
Exactly.
To try and come to overcome. And the use of Gitbook for those that don't know, is just a markup language. That's all it is. It's just a website that's markup language. Super simple, super easy to use. GitHub is more technical, like Dana pointed out. It's more technical. It has more integrations, and but that's the goal, is to kind of not necessarily force, but kind of put the information on the platforms, on mainly just those 3 platforms that you see on your screen, the Gitbook, GitHub, and Discord for now. Discord offers a chance for async meetings. Async meetings, or the unsync meetings, are meetings that they are moderated meetings, so to speak. Like there's always somebody available, but the meeting is like there's a question. And it's a specific async meeting. There's a topic that needs to be discussed. Let's discuss it, but everybody can't meet at the same time because everybody's in different time zones. Discord allows that functionality to have an async, to where we can have a meeting that's open for 12 hours, have maybe a couple moderators that are there for participants to interact with, or it could be a group of people that are there at the same time, or there could be overlap with people that are part of the team or this larger group. And then they can have that async meeting and have those discussions, and without having to be tied to a particular time frame. So you would be given a breadth of about 12 hours. So that's what Discord would be for. Also a central location that would have links also out to GitHub, Gitbook. Basically, it's to use these 3 platforms to organize everything and have it be the landing page. And if one of them is not the landing page, it has a link to the resource on the other one. It's basically to consolidate the information and the tools that are available to the community as far as CAs and VCAs roles and positions, and however they interact with Catalyst. All that information should be at a part of these 3 platforms, and instead of having to use multiple platforms, like 18 platforms that you were speaking of.
Yes. So what I understand from that is that we don't mind centralization of that information, and we are striving for that.
Yeah, centralization of information is absolutely critical. Nothing works in a community unless the community is informed. And the community being informed is not the people who attend after town halls or swarm. That is not the community. That is part of the community. The rest of the community needs to be involved. People on Twitter, people on Reddit, people on Facebook, if there is a Facebook group, everybody. But there needs to be a central location for everybody to connect, to land at, and then to go from there.
Okay. Question number 2, who prioritizes the problems raised? So when somebody raises a problem, and then on the slide, it was said that we prioritize the problems and we address them accordingly. Who is doing that?
Well, there are right now, it wasn't shown in the slides, but right now I believe there are around 6 different working groups. And so I would imagine as we onboard more people and they start to fall into whatever working group they want to fall into, it would be amongst them as to, since everybody should be coming from a diverse background. It's not, your friend is coming, your friend's friend is coming, everybody's got the same mindset. Should be a diverse group of people. And then when an issue arises, then the working group will look at the issue, decide its priority level, so to speak. I mean, everything is a priority initially, to actually look at the issue and figure out what the problem is. And then it would go from there. And then if there are some backlog issues and maybe new issues come in, those can fall underneath the same umbrella as the previous issues that haven't been addressed yet. Is my understanding.
Okay, so there will be a working group that will be responsible for all the incoming issues that are raised recently, and they will organize them and prioritize them.
Yeah, in a sense, yes, but you also got to remember the more issues that come in will obviously indicate which issues are actually a priority. So it's not necessarily just a working group. It's the amount of issues that are brought forward by the community. If there seems to be a pattern, then obviously there will be a self-chosen priority in that. Yes.
Okay. So and then the next step is that a volunteer. No, who is raising up somebody says, I will take care of that problem.
The champion.
The champion, the champion raises.
Could I interrupt you just briefly and say, because we're at the end of the time here. So we'll keep it going and get questions going and hang out as long as we have questions and the discussion goes. But I just want to also say that we'll bring this back up tomorrow in the Anther Town Hall if people are able to be there. We'll keep recording this as it goes in case people need to hop off. And probably what we'll do is set a follow-up so that we can continue making maybe making decisions and involve a broader group as well. So if you need to hop, please do. And if you can stay and want to, please do. Sorry, Ilya, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm occupying the whole meeting. That's how I feel, but I have questions. So the champion says, I want to deal with that problem and I will take care of it. And then a group of volunteers are formed around this champion and they work on that problem. That's what I understand. And these volunteers, what happens if there is not enough volunteers to work on a problem, or if it's too many volunteers to work on a problem? Then how do we manage that?
Can I say something? I think this is an experiment, right? So this is something that they're putting forth as a what's going on right now doesn't work. We have an idea, we want to test it, and then we will adjust as we're testing it. Because I don't think anybody has the answer to that right now. Like, we need to build data first, you know what I mean? See how many groups don't get volunteers, how many do, because there's a lot of people, I mean, from my observation, that well, actually, it's not a lot. There's a few behind the scenes doing a lot of work behind this catalyst, and they're spread real thin. And, you know, they're trying really hard to get these volunteers on board. From my perspective, the problem that I see is information, how it is presented to the public about Catalyst to get people to be involved. And also, you know, when I hear, as somebody who's not involved in the CA thing, like when I come into a town hall meeting more than once, you know, 2 or 3 times in a row, and I'm hearing about problems that are going on behind the scenes with CAs that I had no idea about. And now I'm freaking out because I'm like, wait a second, is Catalyst and Cardano falling apart now? You know, because a lot of that stuff is being discussed in a public forum, you know, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be, that things shouldn't be touched on, but when you're talking about problems over and over again, and, you know, a whole town hall meeting is dedicated to apologizing for something and nobody knows what the heck's happened, you know, that is stuff that needs to be taken care of, you know, in these types of groups. You know what I mean? That's my opinion. So I think this is an experiment where they're just saying, hey, we're putting forth a process. What do you guys think? Because you're right. Nobody's gonna know. I mean, they don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think?
No, absolutely. It is an experiment, and it's meant to be a series of experiments and short experiments that are meant to be short. They start, they end, you iterate, or you start over, but you learn at the end of the experiment. And that's exactly what it is. Nothing is set in stone, but we have to identify these processes that work and these tools that work in order to create something that's more permanent and something that is more useful to the community.
So maybe the next step is deciding, okay, how long is this, like the first phase of the experiment, how long are you going to do this iteration before you take a look at the data, you get back in this group or whatever, and you say, okay, we need to pivot now and try something else and do this, like, because like Ilya was saying, if every 3 months it's changing, and this conversation is like, it's just like, you know, you're recreating the wheel every time, you know, it's got to be shorter than that 3-month period. It's like, so maybe the time frame is what needs to be decided as to, hey, we're going to try it like this for a certain amount of time and see what happens? Or do you think it needs to be the whole length? Because now I'm thinking, okay, a whole cycle of the process needs to be gone about so that you can see what problems are arising throughout the whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah, the deal with it being like an experiment is basically, you know, as we are here today, is to get these people together, bring them together, get the groups together, you know, form the working groups, have our goals laid out, not have the goals as far as like the platforms laid out appropriately, get everything set up for people to interact with. But then as far as the experiments goes, regardless if there's like a definitive stop to an experiment, I don't think there necessarily will be. I think there'll just be an evolving process. Whereas, well, you know, this didn't work. So, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe Discord didn't work. So now we're moving to Zoom only or something of that, whatever it happens to be. But there'll be a continual feedback loop and iterations, but I don't know necessarily if there'll be like a hard deadline for anything. Obviously, the sooner things can get done, the better. And maybe there does need to be some sort of deadline, so to speak, or else nothing will ever get done. You know, I mean, at some point you do have to, I'm with you on that. I think at some point you do have to, you have to have a set of expectations that need to be met.
If you're having regular meetings, you know, that can be an agenda item in your meeting, you know what I mean? Like on a weekly or however the cadence is for the meeting, that's always something, a point in the meeting. We're gonna review processes or we're gonna, you know, anything stick out that you're hearing in around the watering hole or at the water cooler that is not working this week, or, you know what I mean? And set a time limit for that discussion so that it doesn't take up the whole meeting. This is when you have your meeting agenda, put time limits to every part of the, you know, and then if there needs to be sidebar conversations, then those can be had outside of the meeting or whatever, go on to the next week. But, you know, that's the way you're going to be able to understand, like you're saying, the evolving processes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's definitely, I agree with that. And that's part of that feedback, is having that, you know, having that meeting and getting the information, find out how the processes are working for the various groups. And right now, and you have to remember, right now we're like at the very beginning. So like nothing has a tremendous amount of structure, and that's kind of like why everybody is together, is to kind of get the feedback that we need and start putting those in place, because we have to. And on top of that, it requires commitment from people. Like, we can put whatever we want to in place, but I mean, that's great. We can have all these deadlines and these goals and these processes that we want to develop, but if nobody commits, then nothing's going to happen. I mean, you can look at my team. I have 4 people on my team, and Q is here. And one of them is off work. I don't know where the other 2 are at. So, and they've all been notified. So it's the commitment that has to be there. And I think that's the thing, is like when people are called on, they kind of might feel that obligation to commit, and just kind of, and I'm speaking purely out of observation, is I think there's that feeling that if they are invited, that they have this obligation to commit to something they might not want to partake in. And I think people need to get over that, because if Q says, you know what, I don't feel like I want to be a part of this. Okay, thank you for telling me. You know, so there needs to be that communication level and that honesty between people in the group, that are between all the working groups.
I have a question. Can you explain to me, you said your group, explain that to me. How many groups, or you said you have a working group, or?
No, I'm referring to like the working groups. There are like 6 working groups that Nadia drew up on a Miro board that have their working group title is, and and I don't have, I can get the Miro board link, or maybe Nadia can share it if she has it, but it's broken down into working groups. There are working groups like communication, and then retention and onboarding, diversification, and like I think VCA technical is another one. So
there are groups that sort of naturally form themselves. So for this subcircle group, there's a group right now that has naturally formed itself. Jeremy's on it, Tommy, Philip, Simon. You know, this group has come up and said, okay, subcircle is an issue. We want to figure this out. So someone kind of spearheads that naturally. Someone emerges from that group, and then a group forms around it, and then that group can expand because there's space for other roles that aren't like as core to it. You can have people contribute to an initiative without needing to. So it does create a little bit of space of different roles, right? So then this is another example. So long term, once we have some kind of a process in place, this group might disband, where there might be some people in an initial group that continue around the just keeping an eyeball on the process and monitoring it, right? So Scott stepped up and said, this is something I want to do. And then we go out and ask people, we look at who's been talking about this, what should contribute to this, what voice don't we have represented?
I fell or some,
yeah, so
those things form.
That clarifies it for me. So you guys are already like doing a little bit of what you're presenting right now.
We're a little bit testing it. The subcircle idea has been in development for a while within the CA community, but to Scott's point, like then someone steps up and says, you know what, this is really important. And then the group forms around the community will naturally form that. But it is a little bit of like, once that happens, now there's a Google Doc over here, and there's this conversation over here, and these people, blah, blah, blah. Thanks, Rodolfo. So those people come together, and then where does that information go? How is it centralized so that if other people now 2 weeks from now, someone says, hey, has anyone thought about a subcircle? You can say, yes, there's this group that's working on it, and they're talking about it this way, and they thought about that? No, and maybe you should read this document that was like the purpose doc, that kind of a thing. So there's a place that people can understand. Is that going to solve all our problems? No, but it does give us a method and an approach to try to address that. And it also gives us an opportunity to not put people in a position that they're going to be in for, beyond the scope of what the issue is. So some problems might take a week. You might see someone in after town hall, group forms, disbands quickly. Next week, it's like, we did it. Everyone high fives, out. Might take longer depending on what actually is being addressed.
Got it. Thanks. Sorry I'm talking so much, but yeah, thanks for clarifying.
That's why you're here.
For a newbie.
You're good, Dana. Q.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Just wanted to see if you could hear me.
Did you have any questions?
No, I don't think I have any questions.
Let me rephrase that. Comments or questions pertaining to this process itself?
No, not this process. By this process, you mean the wrong process, right? I'm kidding you. This is a great move forward.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, honestly, you guys put together this meeting to ask permission, but you really don't. I mean, you guys are moving in the right direction. You know what I mean? Like, you want to get the community on board and in the know of what you're doing, but you're doing it, and it's looking like it's going to be a good thing.
Well, the other purpose for this was to actually, to basically explain it, to explain the idea, and to receive the feedback from it, maybe any improvements that we can, but also to see if there are if people that were here, if they were still, like you, for instance, Dana, and Ilya, is basically to present this to the people that we had chosen and then see if they were still interested in being part of that, being part of the process and the improvements and the working groups. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's important to have it, it's important to have it picked apart too,
Mhm.
because it happens to me every single day where I'm like, this is gonna be a great idea for that. And then the next day, like 4 things are introduced that weren't here yesterday, and this is happening now, and this deadline is different. And so you go, it's like you start, so it's important to have it picked apart, and also to be accountable for the thinking, right? Is the thinking intact, and is this going to represent what is already happening? Not creating something the community has to fit itself into, but seeing how the community is sort of operating, and then kind of like helping where things are spiraling in different places that they're not being contributed.
No, my only other thing before I have to get off here, because I have another meeting at 2:30, and I know we're trying to, we don't want to be under the IOHK arm, and we're totally separate and we're decentralized and it's all about autonomy. But while we still are the kids living in our parents' house, I think we need to take advantage of their human resources department, as far as not them running it. There needs to be a training set up just to expose, or whether there's people in our community who are HR proficient. Somebody needs to at least get exposure to, just as an option, or to see how HR teams work, because you got a lot of people in this organization in Catalyst who are really good at technical, or they're really good at business, or they're really good at ideas, but there's not very many people who know how to do the human resources part of it. And that is a make or break for any tribe, any company, anything that's trying to survive. So I think like you sit with a group needs to sit with the HR and just ask questions. How do you guys do this? And not just IOHK, go to other companies. Maybe a group needs to start researching HR tactics from some of the best, companies in the world or organizations in the world to get an idea of how Catalyst wants theirs to be. But I just say IOHK because they're already, they're connected to us right now. There's a team of 10 people in that department. And and they're all women actually. So it's just, why wouldn't we sit and ask, what are some best practices that you've seen? Because their people probably have a lot of experience. They probably come from other companies. And just being able to hear how they handle, like, what's the biggest problem that you've had to solve and how did the company solve it? You know what I mean? To try to understand those things. That's my only 2 cents there.
It's
As
not
an
their
aside,
job to do that.
Say that again?
It's not their job to do that.
No, it's not their job, but if we ask pretty please nicely, can I set up a couple-hour meeting with you one time and get a group of people there just to kind of understand? It's not something that has to be continuous, but like, I don't see why we wouldn't, build a relationship to understand, because it's
What kind of liability do they assume by doing that as a company? Hey, let's go and advise these people that apparently are volunteers or getting paid in crypto or building blockchains to overthrow governments.
We're not asking them to do anything or to make anything. We're just saying,
Yep.
hey, can we interview you? Just like if we would go to any other company, if I would go to McDonald's and talk to their HR team, hey, can I talk to you? How do you manage 30,000 locations across the freaking North America and 1 billion across the globe? Do you know what I'm saying?
ADP.
Yeah.
How you do it? Paychecks. You know what?
Specific thing.
Yeah, I think Dana's saying pretty much to interview them, pick their brain, and that's not necessarily on board them to provide any services or mentor or anything of that nature.
I can't believe that you're asking a risk question though. A risk, that's shocking to me.
Well,
From an insurance person, yes, extremely shocking.
He wants to be as far away from the man as possible.
I do think though, for this is like maybe self-serving for this meeting though, is that's a great example of like, you have that feeling, you would be a great champion for that. And you would build a sub-circle around yourself and you would accomplish that thing in maybe a week's time and come back and have that. And it would be chronicled that you had done that and what you had learned, for example, right? Because you probably could do that. And then Dana's like, you know what? I just talked to
I'm not gonna, you know what? It's not off the table, but let me get my catalyst proposals written first.
But just for the sense of understanding it, because what does happen is there is a tremendous amount of passion in here, and there's so many things to look at. So this is like a little piece of the puzzle, but there's so much passion. And then if that person rises up in that passion, and then a natural question we eventually can come to together for this group of people is like, why don't you guys get together and hash it out, right? And try to figure the thing out so that there's ownership. And it's also fine if we just talk about things and think and, pontificate, but.
Or you know what would be even better? What if there's a catalyst proposal that was basically just raising some funds for an unbiased, unpartisan, third-party HR arm that just managed crazy stuff that we hired independently, and then we don't have to go on anybody. Boom. I don't have to make a team. I don't have to go interview anybody. We just have to make sure we get the right people in place.
You want to get funded? Nobody's going to vote for that shit. Let me write the proposal. I've got tons of HR experience.
Everyone gets hired. Everyone gets that's where you have they're like your mini Teamster team. Your what's it called? They're fighting for the catalyst advisors and the catalyst and the people to get, I don't know, more pay, better hours, less, you know what I mean?
We're going on strike against ourselves.
Don't mention strike. I already mentioned that to Nadia.
I do think, so I appreciate everyone's time. We ran over here as we always do in Catalyst, but I think that the next step for this, and maybe Scott and I'll put our heads together about it, is maybe the next conversation is how then does this become communicated as an idea? So we have to make some decisions. We can just build the tools, but this is one of those things, I think, if it actually is valuable, people will naturally start using it. And if it's not valuable, people are not going to use it. And so it's a little bit of that, like, hit the ground running. Let's experiment. We got 3 or 4 groups going already who are working on different things within our group. And maybe we start to shop it and run it. And maybe that naturally will happen. It doesn't need like a organized campaign, or maybe it does. So I think that's a natural. Maybe.
I think it does.
You think it does?
Yeah, you go, you have it, you talk about it during the town hall, you make them give you a couple minutes. You get the people who are really active on Twitter to push it out, hey, this is whatever, CAs on Twitter, you send it out to all your CA people. You have all their emails and stuff, right? No,
we don't have the CA. They're anonymous.
No, but we do have, we have the channels. And I think it's enough of a pain point within, you guys tell me what you think. I think it's enough of a pain point that people are going to go, at least I will try that out.
Yeah.
Or I'll join something that's in motion and see how it feels. Because the rising and involvement of people and the good care of people here should be a priority. And if we can make that, it was not fun 7. It was, we really, it was a lot of not what we're about. It just naturally, because so many things happened and other things weren't in place, and it's okay. We can't do it, and here just a couple things,
No.
I mean, it was pretty typical.
I know. I think at the very least, though, making sure that all new CAs have to be onboarded with this process. You know what I mean? That's a way to testing on it. You know what I mean? At least they know, you know, who knows about if old CAs will use it, but at least people, they'll have some sort of idea of where to go because it's a part of the onboarding process.
It's certainly something we can place as an educational thing, like the Git book, or however we choose to have a landing page. You know, I think people can come to it and have an awareness of it. And then brand new CAs probably will use it to submit issues that they see as they see them, but maybe aren't going to, I don't know, we'll find out. You know, Ilya might be an example of someone who just pops on and has a thing he works on.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything with it if you don't have an issue, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just something that when you're onboarding, you say, hey, if you have an issue, this is where you go, you know, or this is, if you want to be a part of a team that it solves an issue, this is where you go, like, check it out. These are the different working teams that we have going now.
Mhm. Yeah.
So onboarding, we're talking specifically to the CA, but how is that any different to any new person? You know, like right now, most new people come in and they onboard directly to CA, but
They do?
it's turned out, yeah, that's the trend that's happened. You know, people come in and they want to get involved, they have ideas, they're not really, you know, developed yet, they want to get involved, and you know,
I thought there was a minimum like requirement of having gone through something or time. No, I'm a 8-year-old
Clear right now, baby.
I could be a CA.
the community advisor
yeah.
is your
When I-
starting point. You're advising the whole community with no experience
Like
whatsoever.
maybe that also needs to be looked at too. Hey, there needs to be, you know, in order to get to that level, you need to have some sort of skin in the game. You have to have had some experience with catalysts in order to be a community advisor. I just don't, that's what I thought that was the thing. I didn't know that, like, without knowing anything, you can just be a community advisor.
Yeah, what
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I think that's one of the things that we're trying to address, maybe not directly, like changing the requirements to be a CA specifically, but to offer them the appropriate training that they need in order to accomplish their job, or basically it is a job, it's a volunteer job, but basically for them to accomplish their job in the manner that is beneficial to the voters and to the VCAs. And falls within the guidelines. Now, as far as changing the process to become a CA, I'm not saying that's outside the scope. I mean, it's definitely something that we can touch on, and that's probably something that Nadia wants to address as well.
Well, yeah,
I'm
whether it's a training they have to go through or it's a time, I mean, that's still a requirement. You're required to go through this training, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's a discussion. That's a discussion with different feelings about it, about what that should be. And
yeah,
so, yeah, that's not, so this is another example of, like, exactly, you send something, and then rather than you feeling like it's not been addressed or thought about. So this is like another example of what happens in this community a lot, where we, and across Catalyst, it's not specific here, but we have this great benefit of having a very specific role of people that we're able to look at and talk about. So
but I would say, I mean, you guys are on the right track for not, I mean, I do have to click off here, but for no other, and I feel like, I'm sorry, I've just been the one talking the whole time, but I think that just, I like to, I don't, because this is how some other chains go. They act fast and then they apologize later, or that things break and then whatever. I'm not saying that Cardano needs to be like that, but when it comes to like structure and stuff, I mean, you got to have something in place, and you guys are doing it. So I would just say, yeah, continue to do this, and it's gonna work out.
And that's really what Catalyst is about, is moving fast and breaking things.
Yeah.
You know, so as hard as it is to get people to say, hey, we're supposed to be doing this, trying it out, let's go. It's hard.
But thank you guys. I'm gonna click off. I hope I've added some value today.
You did. Thank you so much. for
Thank
your-
you, Dana.
And we look forward to your HR assessment and questionnaire that you asked the IOHK team also.
Okay, thank
Right.
you. I'm gonna do some research and I'm just gonna find some like independent HR contractors
Yeah.
for everyone to interview, and then we can just pick one and then make a catalyst proposal off of it.
Great. We'll be in your sub circle.
Yeah.
Dana,
Yeah.
I can send you a bunch of references for HR. I have to do a lot of it with insurance.
Yeah. There we
Mhm.
go.
See?
All right. See you
All
guys.
right.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Dana.
Thanks, Dana. Anything else anyone wants to add? We can maybe draw it to a close here a little bit and have some plans for getting together later.
Oh, we're getting together later?
Yeah,
Well,
having
tomorrow we
drinks, local pub.
Yeah. No, you're in now. This is it. There's a ball and chain attached to this Zoom call.
Finally, and I quit drinking a year ago. Wonderful. You know, the idea of asking IOG for things, while you know I've asked, people have asked for stuff from them before. Using LinkedIn, using the Catalyst LinkedIn group, a lot of IOG employees are there. We can get more there. That might be a decent place.
We
And
lost you.
seeds.
It might be a decent place, and then we lost you.
That's it. It might be a decent place.
No, now we're never gonna know.
No, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Using the LinkedIn Catalyst group might be a decent place to, you know, like ask some of these questions, or as a community, have the conversation in LinkedIn. They'll see it. Yeah. And I mean, I've had
Another
more
platform.
success. Well, I mean, you call it a platform. I just call it a LinkedIn. I mean, it's the platform economy, Scott. Like, I want all the platforms. I want layers of platforms. I take platforms and delayer them and then put them back together in funny ways. We can't blame everything on the platform. It's all the people.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not the platforms. It's definitely how people aggregate their data and where they put it at. And kind of like what was, I think Nadia said it before, is like once somebody sees the information, they kind of like, oh, great. Yeah, I understand it. And then that's it. But there's not necessarily any dissemination of that information to other people within the community as well. And, or at least letting them know it's out there. Yeah.
Or people start creating these Google Docs and sharing them around, and they look like they're official. You know, like a lot of the stuff that Swarm and QA DAO and Pace are sending out look like it's official stuff, but those are proposals or ideas or things that aren't necessarily official, I guess. There's some things that we're doing that cloudy the truth, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also they're not searchable for reference. So if I want to have
true. Yeah, the aggregation of data. Very exactly. Yep. So I think we're gonna wrap up unless anybody has any other pressing issues. And I hope, I don't know if Nadia does, can't speak for her, but I hope to see y'all again in another meet up, and hope we can continue moving this forward and actually have something that's actually productive and usable.
I do have one thing.
And stop talking about it and do it.
Go ahead, Q.
Did they change the proposal submission deadline dates? Did they move that back?
So. I think it's to the 15th or 17th now.
okay,
Yeah,
so
I haven't even seen that information.
right, and I'm I'm still trying to verify it. So I'm going to say that I did, but I still don't know for sure. But by them extending this date puts us another step closer to not following Catalyst as it, these rules, and allows us to say, hey, there's proposals in there now that are actually ready to be assessed. This deadline was moved back. It kind of sets a way or a precedence or a position for us to move forward towards, not challenges and funds and campaigns, but, doing things as they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy or Ilya, y'all have anything else you'd like to say? Nadia, I'll let you close the chat out.
No, this was really great. I figure I'm going to be leading off the discussions on the after town hall, and this has clarified a lot of what I would like to get across about CA subcircle. So I appreciate it, guys.
And Jeremy and Ilya, I'd love to show both of you the hard fork sometime soon.
Yeah, he just needs to rename some things. But yeah, no, what Q's working on is there's actually a great. I think Q's Discord server could actually be a good tool, or some way to integrate it with what the goal of this. I guess we'll just call this a project. What this project, I think, is a way to integrate that server with this project. Yeah, that's it for me. Before I want to thank everybody for being here. I know we lost some other people, but for those who remain, and also for those who are not here, I thank everybody for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.